Welcome back, everyone, to the Mindset Medicine Podcast. I'm Katharine Loucaidou. It's interesting this week. I had an interesting episode. I wrote a social media post about it, and I never want my posts to come across as being a victim or wanting pity or, I hope you feel better. It's never about that. The way I write my social media posts and the way that I record my podcasts are just lessons that I've learned in life and the mindset that I have adapted to be able to survive. And that's what today is about. It is about the art of resilience and what a survivor's mindset looks like and sounds like and what it feels like. This podcast goes out to anyone who has survived something traumatic, who has survived an illness, an experience, whatever that looks like to you. If you feel that you are a survivor, then this is for you. And I applaud you because it takes strength, it takes grit, and it takes mental toughness to survive anything that is really unexpected. So a little bit about my story so that you can understand where all this comes from. So about 16 years ago, I had a massive heart attack at the age of 33. My husband quickly rushed me to the hospital where I knew I was going. I was dying in that car. I could feel it. And I had two young children, two sons under the age of 7. It's interesting what goes through your mind, isn't it? When you feel like it's the end. And it's not like the movies where your life is passing you by. For me, it was simply, I am not leaving my kids. And it was like this stubbornness in my head. I was like, I am not leaving them. So when I got to the hospital, there was the only doctor on duty that night was the head cardiologist. And he did what he had to do, pumped me full of medication and managed to stabilize me for a few minutes. But then I had another heart attack. And then that continued for another 5 days. I would have a heart attack every day. I've had every symptom of a heart attack. So what ended up happening is they did an angiogram and I had 4 arteries blocked. They did triple bypass. So they bypassed 3 of my arteries. I didn't even know what the surgery entailed. I had no idea what triple bypass surgery was. I was 33. I was living in Europe. I was naive. There I am in recovery on this watery bed, which is, it's actually warm water that is heated under you. And it's how they bring you back, basically. And you're full of tubes and you've got wires attached to you. It's not a pretty sight. You really look like something from an AI movie. So that was a tough recovery. That was 2 weeks again in hospital. And then they discharged me. And in Europe, there is no rehab, or at least there wasn't when I was there 16 years ago. They just send you home. So when you're sent home without any kind of direction or, be careful of this, be careful of that, I ended up having a minor stroke a week later, rushed back into the hospital, given more medication. And so there you are. You have survived a massive heart attack and then subsequent heart attacks. You have survived triple bypass surgery. You have survived a stroke. So now what? Now, how do you go and live a normal life? It's not normal. It's not what you knew as normal. There's a lot that I had to learn by myself, for myself, in order to survive. And it's what got me through the week in the hospital, waiting for surgery. It's what got me through the rehabilitation after this kind of surgery, because you literally cannot walk. When they remove your heart in surgery, then reinsert it, and then start you up again is the easiest way I can explain this. They are literally restarting all of the mechanisms in your body. So it was walking again slowly, and you're not allowed to climb steps for about 2 months, and so many different side effects. So This podcast isn't about surgery. It's about the mindset that has to go along after surviving something like that and the resilience. There is a quote, and it was done by a psychologist and doctor, and it talks about crisis. And in a crisis situation, a crisis occurs when our theories about ourselves in relation to the outside world go fundamentally wrong. It is the dissonance between our expectations and our outcomes that causes the pain, not the outcome alone. Foremost among our expectations is our belief that pain is something to be avoided at all costs, that it's bad for you. Suffering does not fit our theory about what it takes to succeed in life. And so we fail to concede that pain is inevitable in each of our lives. So this is a really important point when you have survived something traumatic, survived an extreme situation, is your mind begins to interpret life in a different way. When I got home from the hospital, I had the idea that something like this shouldn't have happened to me. I was 33, a mother of 2 young kids. Why would I have a massive heart attack? Why would I be having triple bypass surgery? That's for people who are over 50, over 60, over 70, not a woman, a young woman. So that's the first time I realized that my perception about life was not accurate. And my perception about pain, why do I have to be in pain? Why am I stuck with the scars? I had to work through that. And I had to come to the understanding that I am no more special than anyone else. I had to come to the understanding that pain is inevitable in life. And now I don't want to say welcome it, but I understand it. And I also know that as long as I can feel pain, I am still alive. Think about that for a minute. We complain about having a headache. We complain about, having sore joints and arthritis and all different kinds of things. But what we forget is that we are alive and we can feel these things. And the fact that you can feel is a good thing. Long-term suffering, that's where we have the problem. When we talk about the mentality of someone who has survived something, I feel that I perceive and I process information differently. I notice details. I trust my senses. I believe in my instinct. And I also know that it never lets me down. So if I have the sense that something is off, if I have the sense when I meet someone that there's something not quite right, I believe it because it never lets me down. When I get into a crisis situation, especially like the one I had this past week, I was away in Atlanta. I was out for dinner after I had spoken at a real estate event. And as I'm sitting there over dinner, I can feel my body is heating up. The restaurant was very hot. And after heart surgery, your body is overly sensitive. I feel everything. If I have more than a half a cup of coffee, I can feel it. More than one chocolate bar, I can feel it. So as my body is heating up, my heart rate starts to escalate. So we went from an 80 beats per minute heart rate, which is average if you're moving around and you're active. Then it went to 90. Then it went to 100. Now, normally, if I'm on the treadmill and I'm walking at a really good pace, my heart rate will be around 112 to 115. So I'm sitting calmly at dinner and my heart rate goes to 120, 130, 140, 150. At 150, I knew I had to get out of there. My head started feeling fuzzy. Something was not right. Instinct. I don't need to sit there until I pass out. I got up, went back to my room. So here is what's interesting, that once you have become a survivor of anything, like I said, that's traumatic, you begin to obey your instinct, meaning, okay, this is what's happening right now. And you launch into rationality. You learn to adapt to the situation. I understood the environment around me was crowded, was hot. I needed to remove myself from that situation. I needed to put myself in an environment that was cooler, quieter. So that's what I did. Went back to my room. So as you can see, once you have been through something, you don't wait for another sign that will make things worse. You actually move into action. So a survivor and a resilience mentality is you think about the situation, but then you also move into action and you begin to break down what's going on your own. So I know after 16 years of so much research into the heart that certain things are connected. I also know that environmental factors are a huge uh, contributor to my heart rate. You know, when I go and I fly anywhere, I know that flying in the plane and the air pressure causes some changes. So wherever I go 2 days earlier because I want to acclimatize. So it's not just knowing that things can go wrong, but it is understanding and then moving into action. Something else that I find really interesting with people who are resilient and who have survived traumatic experiences is we don't hope to be rescued by someone. You become so rational in the way that you move, in your actions, in your thinking, and it's almost like you're completing a checklist of things that need to get done. You become so rational that even what may seem impossible is completely possible. I don't overestimate my ability to make things better, but I also understand that there is the possibility that what I'm thinking may not be as bad as it is. Now, let me give you an example. So there I am on Monday night by myself in my hotel room, and my heart rate is still very high, and I am going to bring it down. So I know that you elevate your legs. I know that you cool the room down, and you also have to calm yourself. You have to talk yourself down. And that's where the rationality comes in. You're in a crisis situation, but you don't rely on someone else to calm you down. You have to understand intrinsically, which is emotional intelligence. It is a self awareness, really understanding yourself, your body, your mind, and that you actually have control of that. I may not have control of the situation or the environment that I'm in, but I have control in how I can react to it. In doing those steps, my heart rate started to come down. I also rationally know that if my heart rate hadn't come down, that is where I know I'm in an emergency situation. Because when you have a health related issue, if the health related issue comes and goes, then it may be an environmental factor. If I have a heart issue and it continues to escalate, that is where I have the issue and I have to call 911. So that's what I did. So it's really key to understand that when you have a resilient mindset, you're not waiting for someone to ride on their horse and save you. You learn to save yourself. You learn to walk yourself through situations. The other thing is the calmness. I find that people who have survived, including myself, when you have survived something traumatic and you have become very resilient, we don't become easily frustrated or discouraged by setbacks. Something happens, you see it for what it is, you understand the situation, you understand your response to the situation or your reaction, and you move on. You try again, and then you try again. And I would say that we are not going forth blindly, we are going forth boldly. Being resilient means that you get back up and you go at it again. The beauty of resilience and having a resilient character is that every time you have to get back up, you get back up faster and you get back up bolder and you get back up stronger. So it's interesting, right? Because a true survival skill is a balancing act. It is two paradoxes of you are both cautious and you are courageous at the same time. I cautiously go away on work. I travel for work. I cautiously sit on stages and speak. And I know that my heart rate will be elevated doing those things. Courageously, I do those very same things because you cannot live in fear your entire life because of one traumatic incident that has happened. You learn from the incident, you understand the incident, and you move forward with courage and bravery and strength because life is meant to be lived. It is not meant to sit back in fear. I would prefer to live life to my fullest and not ever have any regrets at the end of life, at whatever age that may be, than to live a life in fear and get to that last day like I've been and regret that I didn't do all those things I wish I had done, because that is actually a much more painful experience and feeling than going forth and just living life to its fullest. I would rather focus on the abundance of the universe, the abundance of life, the abundance of love that is in the world, the abundance of the opportunities that are out there for us, waiting for us. I choose to think positively. We are not born thinking positively because the environment around us and the media and people and pandemics and all of these things, it's almost like we are destined to live in negativity if you choose. However, I choose to live in positivity. I can change the perspective of what's going on. I can see a different perspective. I can adapt my behavior. I can adapt the way I am going to react to a situation. I am building life so big and powerful with a positive mindset that it would take an army to break me down again. I don't believe that if you have developed a resilient mindset and a survivor's mindset, that there is too much that can break you down. We have setbacks, but it won't break us down. If you get to know yourself really, really well, and you get a really strong understanding of your emotions, of your instinct, if you understand that life will throw you curves, there will be challenges, there will be hurdles, there will be other medical complications that come up. I do know all of it is worthwhile because I'm still here and I'm still here to live another day. And I firmly believe that I will outlive so many people because what happened to me is in the past. What happened to me, I learned from. I got a greater understanding of myself. Yes, what happened to me was traumatic, but it also made me stronger and it made me into the person I am today. And I can go forth in life and impact other people. My goal is to help change other people's perspectives. Look at a situation, but now try looking at it 3 different ways. I see that every situation can be looked at in 360 degrees. Go out there. Don't be afraid. If something traumatic has happened, choose to be resilient. Choose strength. Choose love over fear. Live life. Live life so you don't ever have any regrets at the end of it. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week.